Thank you very much there, Lorraine, and thank you everyone. It's a beautiful day and it's a sunny day and it's the first day of daylight saving, so we've all lost an hour, and I think I lost an extra hour as I was preparing for this talk. But before we launch into my talk, I was wondering whether you'd all just take a moment to take a breath with me, and if you would close your eyes and place your right hand over your heart and your left hand over your solar plexus just for a moment. And just take a nice deep breath in and breathe out. And because at our deepest essence, we are all spirit and energy, I wonder if you would connect with me heart to heart. And feel me, feel my energy, and I will feel yours. And we will connect through the ethers, heart to heart. And remember that we're all one family, and we all come from one source. And you may gently open your eyes. So I woke up this morning early and I pondered on what I was going to talk about today. And I asked for a sign. And I'm a great believer that if we ask for a sign will be given to us, especially with this philosophy, because we are talking about spiritualism and energy. And so I asked for a sign. And usually one of the first things I do in the morning is I pick up my phone and look at some emails, and I subscribe to a particular email from a lady called Tanishka, who's called the Moon Woman, and she gives a forecast of the energy relating to the moon. And what she spoke about, sometimes it's more the gold in what she says in her emails that's not always necessarily about the energy of the moon. And so what she said, and I felt that it was very relevant for my talk today, is that there is a real test for us. Can we really love someone unconditionally? It's easy to love those who experience the world as we do, but the challenge is to appreciate the beauty of those who don't. So yesterday I did a workshop for the VSU. The VSU hosted it, and it was all about learning about your birth numbers and the elements of nature. And I find that when we understand that we're part of nature and nature is part of us, that we have a greater appreciation of who we are and what our makeup is, how we tick, how we're meant to go with the flow of life and be able to manage the changes that will inevitably come up for us throughout our life. And as I began to download this morning, I sat up in my bed and I had the cat beside me and I had my notebook, and I thought I'll just download and maybe channel some information for this talk. I had my curtains open and a kookaburra came and landed on my balcony, and I get a lot of bird life here, and I'm very grateful and very appreciative of the bird life, because birds represent a whole great deal of sense of joy for me. And so it started to laugh. This kookaburra just stood, wasn't looking directly at me, but it started to laugh, and all of a sudden my heart just opened up, and I thought, oh my God, that bird or that kookaburra is just being itself. There's no expectations on it. It's not expected by anyone to do what it does. He just laughs. And I had to, because I love to research and understand for signs that I receive what the meaning is, especially if I'm having dreams. I see an image, the next morning, if I remember, I'll look it up on Google. And what Google said about the kookaburra was that if you hear its laugh, it can tell you that you've reached the end of a cycle or the end of a certain part of your journey, and that there's a healthier growth that's just about to begin. And of course I kept researching because that wasn't enough for me. And another interpretation was about if there's anybody in your household they may be pregnant. And I thought, well, I'm past my childbearing age and I've only got my son here, so there's not much likeliness of that happening. And then I thought about it more, and I thought about, well, there is a new beginning, not just for myself based on the energy I know that's influencing me this year, but also for our world at large. We're at the start of a whole new decade, a whole new cycle worldwide. 2020 started off on a very rough note, and it hasn't finished, it hasn't ended, we're still in the thick of it. But I believe that we're all very much aware that with the tides of change that are happening, that we are moving towards a time where our awareness of who we really are is awakening more. They say that this is a time of great awakening, and I think it's more that we've always known on a deeper level that there's more to us, there's more about us, and that there's more that we can express about ourselves in the world. But it's more that we're just beginning to wake up to that, where it's like we've been in a sleep for not decades, centuries really, and it's more that we're just waking up to more of the truth. And what's no longer true is now going to disintegrate and fall away. When I think about the season that we've just gone through winter. Winter is a time of stillness, and there's, all the leaves have died, there's no sign of growth. But underneath all of the ground, there's still seeds that are growing and percolating, and during spring they'll start to shoot up through the ground, and of course we are now in spring. But I feel that like we've all been in a time of winter where everything is dormant, everything's quieter, and it's given us a time to slow down, to become more quiet, to become more self-reflective, and to start to tap into, okay, life has changed, maybe you've lost a job, maybe, where if you're like me, you're in a business for yourself, everything stopped virtually. It's a time now to reanalyze where are you going to with the rest of your life. Have you really tapped into your true gifts and talents? Is there maybe now an opportunity for you to step into more of who you really are? And so I thought that maybe I'd talk about that and about the energy of aloneness, because winter can be a time of feeling alone. And we have been in isolation. That has been the word that's come up a lot during this year. And isolation can feel like a time of being all alone and lonely. And of course, we haven't been able to connect with our loved ones like we would like to. But again, it has been an opportunity to slow down. The world is slowing down. We're being forced to slow down. And if we can look at this time that we're in at the moment as an opportunity rather than a challenge. It has been a challenge, but we will grow through the adversity. There will be a lot of growth and a new awareness at the end of this cycle. And then I thought about what other signs that I tend to notice when I ask for a sign. And I mentioned earlier that I get a lot of bird life here. And I once went and saw a psychic medium for a reading, and she said to me, what's the relevance of birds? Do you notice birds around your house? And I said, well, yes. Particularly down here in my healing room, I get a lot of bird life around, especially when I was seeing clients and I was doing hands-on healing. I would actually hear different types of birds coming to my garden. And she told me that those birds are your family and your loved ones that are in spirit are using those birds, or their energies coming through those birds. And so whenever you hear them, know that your dad's around, or your mum's around, or your brother, and just know that they're there and they're connecting with you, and they're just reminding you, good on you, you're doing a good job. And so I wanted to kind of just remind you that we're all surrounded by signs. And for me, birds are a sign, and particularly that kookaburra was a definite sign for me. But also earlier this week, I was looking out the window as I was preparing for the day, and this one bird perched on my balcony and started to sing. It started to chirp away happily. And the thought came into my mind, why do birds sing? Why do they do that? And interestingly enough, I thought, well, maybe they just sing because they've got a song. And because I love quotes, I went on, when I was preparing for my workshop yesterday, I was looking for quotes, and interestingly enough, the universe dropped a particular quote or a Chinese proverb into my computer to make me aware of it. And this Chinese proverb goes like this: a bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. And so I thought, how relevant is that? Because that answered my question, which I already intuitively probably knew. And I believe that each and every one of us has a song. Everybody has a reason why they're here. We each have gifts and talents that we may have already tapped into, and maybe we haven't. And sometimes there needs to be someone that can reflect that back to you. I remember way back when I was 17 years old, I was on a trip to Europe with my sister, and we were sitting in a Kentucky bus, and the bus driver put some music on, and my sister and I sat there together, and it was an old-fashioned Connie Francis song. Can't remember the title of it, and it was a 50s song, and my sister and I just started singing together. And interestingly enough, we started to sing in a bit of a harmony. And someone behind us leaned forward and said to us after we finished singing, "You girls should sing together. You've got really wonderful voices." And we said, "No, not really, thank you." But that sparked a desire or a dream or an idea in us. And when we came home, we actually went off to started our own harmony duo. We went and sang for weddings and wedding services, and we did that for a number of years before children. Well, not before children, because I kept singing after children came, but we did that for a number of years. So sometimes it takes somebody outside of us, a sign, to reflect back to us that there's something in you that you may not even recognise that you have, and that each and every one of us has a song, just like the bird. And when you tap into it, then there'll be a greater sense of living life from the heart and living life with joy. And another interpretation of that kookaburra this morning, of course, with its laughter, it was reminding me to lighten up, to stop worrying. And I can tend to worry, I can tend to stress, and I was stressing a little bit last night about I haven't prepared for this talk today. And I like structure, that's part of who I am. But then Spirit was really playing games with me, and it did play with us a little bit yesterday with technology. And when I went to print off these notes, there was no way it was going to do it. And then it did finally at the last minute. And it was giving me a sign to say, you know what you're going to say. And why not connect more fully and deeply with your own soulful self? And then the message will come up and out. And so that's why I asked you a little bit earlier to connect with me. Connect with me and my heart. Because as we connect heart to heart, that's where the true connection is. That's where the true communication comes from. So I wanted to, I always look for more signs, and I use oracle card decks and tarot decks and such. And this morning I thought I'd pull a card out of my Akashic Tarot deck, which I love this deck because it's the messages that come from it are quite profound. And the card that came up was the Three of Roses, which related to the loving elementals. So that was another sign for me to lighten up, realise that my love of nature and my love for people and connecting people more truly with their true nature can be a more enjoyable experience. Once we realise who we are and once we tap into nature, nature will not let us down. If we listen to the messages of nature, nature can tell us what we need to know to support us. But it was also reminding me to be like that inner child, be that child with that sense of wonder and curiosity, and to tap into the wonders of our lives and nature around us. And I also chose another card from another deck called the Quantum Oracle just before I came downstairs. Don't know if you can see that. I've got about 40 decks of cards, so that's only 2 of the 40. And the card that came out from here was called Ascended Masters. And it was a reminder again to connect with the Ascended Masters, ask for support, know that you're not alone. And so I asked for the angels and Archangel Gabriel, because she's the communicator, she's the messenger. So I tapped into their energy, but then also when you place your hand over your heart and over your solar plexus and you connect with your body, then you can connect more fully with your soul. And if we could just remember that during those times of challenges, those times where we feel alone, those times when we feel isolated and we feel that there's no one else there for us, come back to yourself, come back to your true nature, come back to your soul, and then you'll find that next step forward and you'll feel the sense of grace that is all around us. So thank you. That's my talk for today. Yes.